Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri. On today's show, we will meet Rucha Deshpande, a content writer, singer, and an aspiring barista. She currently works as a social media and communications head with Sunbird Trust, an NGO in the education sector whose vision is to build peace through education and empowerment of children and youth in conflict-affected areas of northeastern India. Her on-field work has taken her to Ijerong, a remote village in Manipur, for a period of 2 years. With a master's degree in German literature, Rucha gave corporate life a shot in vain before realizing her heart lay somewhere else. She thrives on collecting experiences on travel, brewing coffee, reading, playing music on her uke, and believes in being okay to not have one passion to chase and advocates for being a jack of many. Welcome, Rucha, to this episode of Wings Podcast.
Thank you, Milind.
Rucha, this place called Ijerong in the northeastern state of India called Manipur would have been completely unknown and alien to me all my life. But thanks to you, I kind of came to know about existence of this place. Now, for most of us like me who live in mainland India, with due respect to the state of Manipur, the place is so far away. We only know so much. We probably heard about Manipur being a part of the Seven Sisters. We probably have heard about Imphal, the state capital, but we would never know anything more than that. And you ended up spending a good 2 years of your life living there in this mystical sounding name called Ijerong. So why don't we begin our conversation with your tryst with this place?
So like you said, I was just like many of us, I was also very unaware of the northeastern part of India in general till a few years ago. But about 4 years ago, a friend of mine started working with this NGO called Sunbird Trust in Manipur, and I would see her posts on Instagram, and that really intrigued me. So I sort of, at that point, I was working with Amazon and in Bangalore. I was living a corporate life. I was a corporate slave, and I really, really did not like it. So at that point, when I saw her posts, it sort of seemed like a window, to a life that I could have. And I very generally asked her about the NGO and what they've been doing and how long she's been staying there and things like that. And one thing led to another, and she got me in touch with the founder. I met him in Bangalore, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man. And it was a very interesting conversation because he didn't ask me anything about my educational qualifications, nothing. He just asked me, so what do you do with yourself when you're alone? And do you sing? Or these things that would actually matter when someone stays in a remote village. He asked me all of those questions, not a word of my education qualifications or anything. He just wanted to sort of gauge if I could I could be a fit at all in a place like that. And then that happened. And a few months after that, I found myself in Imphal. I found myself doing a recce visit to these villages in Manipur. He said, just go spend a few weeks there, see if you like it, and then we can figure it out. So that's it. That's just what I did. I quit my job at Amazon and I moved to the hills. I mean, for him and my parents, it was just a few weeks in Manipur that I was just trying it out, but I knew that once I go there, I'm not going to come back. So that's how it really started. But like you and I mean, like a lot of us, I had very little clue about Northeast India. Even today, a lot of people when they are generally going to any part of Northeast India, let it be Shillong or Guwahati or anything, they give me a call and ask me, so what do I do in Shillong? And I keep telling them that, it's like you're traveling to Pune and asking someone about things in Bangalore. That, hey, I'm traveling to Bangalore, you're in Pune, so maybe you know how things are there. And I'm just telling them that no, it's a completely different state, and it takes an hour flight, 1 hour flight to reach this other state. So it's, all of us are pretty, we don't know much about that part of India. And I feel so privileged that I actually got to go and live in the middle of all of this. And I got to live very close to um, the locals there and with the community there. It was, yeah, I'm very grateful that I got a chance to do that.
Rucha, as you were just narrating as to how, and we'll get to know more as we continue this conversation, but as your introduction to this, possible adventure in life where you said you simply quit a corporate life in a company called Amazon, and you simply jumped without knowing much in as to where you are jumping and for what. And instinctively, my mind went to this card in the tarot card deck. I'm not a tarot person, but I'm kind of fascinated with the idea of what tarot stands for. But there is in this 22 major cards that the tarot deck has, there is this card
Okay.
number 0. It's also called the Fool.
Sorry, I
Okay,
couldn't hear you.
it's also called the Fool.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe when this conversation is over, and if you're not familiar, you can just look up the Fool card in a tarot deck, and I'll read out the description of the Fool in the tarot
Okay.
terminology.
Mm-hmm.
It says the Fool represents new beginnings, having faith in the future, being inexperienced, not knowing what to expect, having beginner's luck, improvisation, and believing in the universe. And each tarot card, including the Fool, also has a visual symbol. And the symbol of the Fool is actually who is a joker playing a musical instrument at the edge of the cliff with
Okay.
one foot on the edge and 1 foot in front in the air, as if he is ready to jump, but not afraid of where he will land, whether he'll land at all or not, but happily playing his music. That's the Fool.
Wow. How much I can relate to this Fool.
So this Fool in the manifested world, in the form of Rucha Deshpande, ended up going to this place called Ijerang, jumping off the cliff almost metaphorically, would have had some romantic ideas as to what to expect there. So, what is it that the thoughts and the feelings you had about that place before you kind of embarked on that journey? And what did it eventually mean for you at the end of the 2-year stay?
Very interesting question, because everybody asked me how I felt after I went there, but nobody really asked me how I felt before I went there. So I think I knew Ejirong from pictures, and I had only seen the best pictures that my friend had clicked and put up on Instagram. So in my head, it was this extremely beautiful place, where it completely out of the dreams, and this really quaint little town with really friendly villagers. It was a very perfect picture in my mind. Whereas when I actually went there, I realized that the pictures did no justice to the place. It was so much more beautiful, and it you know, I don't know if you've ever felt it, but it was so beautiful that I was feeling heavy. I was feeling extremely overwhelmed and heavy, seeing the beauty of the place, seeing how untouched and raw the place was and the people were. um and the first few weeks went like that, where I just kept romanticizing the whole thing in my head, because everybody talks about leaving a corporate job and moving to the hills and living with tribals and etc. I was also there when I actually went there. So the first initial, I never felt the shock that a lot of people could have felt, because I was completely swept off of my feet by the beauty of the place and the people, etc. um it actually, the reality of the place started kicking in only maybe a month in, where I realized that there was no network there. So I didn't have any contact to my family or friends back in the city. There was a big water shortage, so we had to go fetch water from a pond nearby. There was no electricity. Electricity would come maybe once in a couple of weeks for a few hours, or maybe a night or something. And so these basic things sort of started kicking in, where I realized that I started to feel really, really lonely. I didn't even have friends then. But I think as we all of us, the team, started living through these experiences together, we had these shared experiences, we realized that we had become family, without even realizing that, like, we had sort of grown that close together. And once we knew that we could count on each other, and that we're all we have right now, colleagues, friends, family, it got much easier, because I knew that I could count on someone. And once that settled, the next 2 years in Ijerong were really smooth. Because no, actually, so now when I'm back and I look back to those 2 years, I can't believe the things that we went through, and I can't believe that I actually could do all of those things and did all of those things. But when I was actually living it, it didn't feel like such a task. um I don't know if I'm trying to get through to you. I don't know if if I'm being able to explain what that felt like.
No, fair enough. Uh, so this was the fascination and the romantic start that you had with this magical, mystical place called Ijerong. And of course, um, you spent a good 2 years there, as the Sunbird Trust vision states, to contribute towards the education and empowerment of children and youth in the conflict affected areas of northeastern India. And of course, the Sunbird Trust website does talk about Colonel Christopher Rego's personal experience when he was posted in that region as an colonel in the Indian Army, where in the history I was reading on the Trust website says that one of the primary reasons why young boys especially, and even probably girls, get attracted to to become an armed militia, because they have nothing else to do in life, and they have been in some ways deprived or denied the basics uh, of education, a life
Yeah.
of dignity.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about the kind of work that you actually did? I mean, one is the vision and the mission of the NGO, but the second is something that was on the ground. In
Right.
some ways, one would like to believe that uh, there is a give and take, or a giver and a taker relationship. That I am privileged, and the other person whom I'm going for is lesser privileged, and I'm kind of trying to be of help in that sense. So that's the stated goal of any social sector organization, which is fair and very respectful. But then how was it for you on the ground when you actually spend time with that families and the young boys and girls in the schools that you were a part of?
I remember one of the first things I felt was how guilt actually for the privilege that I was born with. That took a little while to sort of get over, because I kept um, I couldn't get over the fact that because I was born in a city, or because I was born in a family that I was born in, I got access to so much. And just because these kids are born on a hill in a community that's maybe not as well off, they don't have access to it. So that was one of the I remember this was one of the first feelings that I had, where I started realizing that I am extremely privileged. Um, but I think later I sort of realized that feeling guilty about my privilege is not helping anyone really. So I can go a step beyond and try and use this privilege that I have to actually make a difference. And that's when remember that's when work really started for me, emotionally and mentally. I would try. I really wanted to be able to relate to the people and the kids there. So I started with a lot of um, v- home visits. Every evening, I would visit some villager in the village. It was a very small village. We had just 150 people. And every evening, my friend and I, we would visit 2, 3 houses and just sit with the family by the fire. They didn't know English or Hindi so much. We didn't know Inpui so much. So we had these broken conversations, which were really fun. And a lot happened through eyes and hand gestures. But yeah, with that, we started getting familiar with the village ways, the villagers, the families there, the students. We wanted to know where our students were coming from, so that if a student behaves a certain way in class, you know exactly where it's coming from. And these things we started doing. As a sunbirder, teaching was one of the responsibilities that all of us had. So I was doing that as well on the side, and I was handling our social media website content. I was writing blogs for them. I am doing all of that even now. And apart from that, with Sunbird, there's this really wonderful thing that Sunbird really encourages you to do anything and everything that you would like to do. So you have, because everybody who's come there is very proactive. Nobody's forced anyone to come there, because it's not like everybody's very, very self-motivated, whoever is there. So everybody comes up with really interesting things. So when I was there, I realized that I have a recording system. I have a big history in music, and the children in Northeast India are innately talented musically. So why not make use of it? And that's when I thought, hey, I just want to try and teach these girls this one song, a Hindi song, and they don't even know Hindi. So it was very wonderful to see them learn Hindi and then learn this song and sort of record it. And I thought, let's just try it out. And it turned out to be so beautiful. Um, One of the, do you know Furtado is the music company?
Yep.
They they heard the song that I had recorded, and one of the um, one of the family members of the Furtado's family, he came and visited Ijirong just to see the girls sing, and from all the way from Bombay. And he gifted us, Furtado's gifted us an entire music academy in Ijirong. And
Wow.
it was, yeah, it has
Wow.
over 80 instruments. And it's crazy how small things that you just think of and do can make such a big impact and such a huge difference. So yeah, these are a couple of things that I did there.
What was that song?
It's got it was a cover of a song called Dil Beparwa by Ankur Tiwari and Pratik Kuhad.
Why don't we have it unplugged right now from you? I am too tempted.
Actually, I would rather that we listen to it, listen to the girls singing it. It's on YouTube,
Okay.
and it.
What do I have
if
to
we can,
search for on YouTube?
Dil Beparwa Sunbird Trust.
Dil Beparwa Sunbird Trust. If I search on YouTube, I'll get the Manipuri young girl singing this song. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So it seems that music did play a major part of the work that you did there, because you had no brief from Sunbird Trust, and the only brief was go where your heart takes you, and music being so close to you, it seems that you've kind of leveraged that piece of you to in your work there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why
I
don't
was
we why
just
don't we
in
why
the
don't
right.
we why don't we hear, before we get into the singer Rucha, why don't we hear her sing right now with her uke playing, if possible? That would be awesome.
Okay, I can attempt it. So I'm not. I'm still learning how to play the uke. So I usually just use the uke to for chords, so to sing along with.
Okay.
But yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So I woke up with allergies today, so I'm going to be a little nasal and I may feel tired quicker.
No sweat.
So let's see. बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना बावरे से बन के देखो बावरी है बातें बावरे से बन के देखो बावरी है बातें बावरी सी धड़कने है बावरी है सांसें बावरी सी करवटों से दुनिया क्यों भागे बावरी से कर चाहे बावरी ज़रूरों से बावरी नज़ारों को तकना बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना बावरे से इस जहां में बावरा एक साथ हो बावरे से इस जहां में बावरा एक साथ हो इस सयानी भीड़ में बस हाथों में तेरा हाथ हो बावरी सी धुन हो कोई बावरा एक राग हो बावरी सी धुन हो कोई बावरा एक राग हो बावरे से पैर चाहे बावरे तरानों के बावरे से बोल पे थिरकना बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना बावरामन देखने चला एक सपना
Beautiful, beautiful. So Rucha, this Bawra Man is a very intriguing concept. in many ways, one can say that it's the innocent beginner's mind, which is pretty raw in its nature. Is this how music happened to you in that state of yours?
Mhm. So music happened to me when I was very, very, very young. Um, when I was 5 years old is when I was introduced to classical music. Uh, when I was 5 years old, I was introduced to classical music and I absolutely fell in love with it. Um, and then I started singing. I changed two gurus and so I basically trained my voice for 17, 18 years of my life classically, before sort of then before life happened to me and I had to give it up for a while. So right now I'm not practicing classical music as such, but I do small things like this. I record a few songs, I train children when I'm in the northeast of India. So I do all of that, but I love music. And I think more so now that I have stopped singing so much is when I really realize the value of it. Uh, but yeah, music plays quite a big role in my life on a
So
daily basis.
you sang with the young boys and girls of age around. You probably taught them, you recorded with them. So
Mhm.
what do you think music did for them, which probably they didn't have before your being with them?
Um, so in the northeast of India, one thing that I noticed was how there was always us, as in the villagers, the tribals, and the mainland Indians. And they would say, okay, these people are from India and we are from Mizoram. So they could never associate themselves with the country, really. So the fact that these children were willing to sing a Hindi song or willing to learn a Hindi song, Hindi being an Indian language and something that they can't relate to, was very new for them and me. Till then, they had only been singing English songs or Inpui songs, their local regional language songs. But I think that sort of strengthened that connect that these kids had with mainland India or us. Also, these children are very, very shy, and music opened up that part of them where they weren't as shy anymore. They started joking around with me. They started fooling around with me. We became friends through music. And before that, this relationship was a teacher and a student, and a teacher who doesn't really look like them, think like them, dress like them, any of that. But music sort of bonded us and made us this one unit. And it was wonderful to break through that barrier, you know? So that's
How,
what
how,
it
how old
did
how old
for
how old
us.
were the kids? How old were the kids?
Mm, the between 13 and 16.
And how big would be the class in terms of number of students for you?
50, 40, 50. Actually, it depended on every school and every location.
Sure, sure.
But in Ijerong, the school, yeah, about 50, 40, 50 each class.
And what all did you teach them in addition to music?
I only taught them English grammar in addition to music. And music was not a formal subject that I taught. It was something that I did on the side. So I wouldn't go to each class for music, but a few kids would be selected and we would train them. whoever was interested. And I also taught the really young ones, the nursery and kindergarten children. I taught them music and dance, and that was for my entertainment mostly. But I spent a lot of time with those children there.
So these students who are, 13, 14, 15, 16 years, who probably know their own local regional language far more than the national language or English, for whom the teacher was in many ways just, when you were first with them, a kind of an alien coming from a different world, looking different, wearing different clothes, etc., etc. And thanks to the music, they could touch and feel and be a part of something which was alien to them, which probably
Yeah.
is something that they derived other than the joy of singing and dancing with you. But
Mhm.
what is it that the teacher derived or learned or received from these young boys and girls?
So much. I finally felt accepted. I finally felt not that they were consciously making an effort to keep us out, but I'm a completely foreign person with a name unlike any of theirs or anything like that. So for them to sort of keep that aside and let me in a little bit was a huge, huge achievement for me, even though that I didn't do much for that to happen. Music did. Apart from that, I think I got to be part of a student's life which was not in the classroom, and I think that makes a huge difference. In a classroom, especially in Ijirong, students are just sitting extremely quietly with their books open and very, very disciplined students. But that's not what a child is, you know. A child is full of laughter and joy and mischief, and I got to see these parts of these kids when I was hanging out with them outside of the classroom, um, doing music. And it was amazing because a lot of the girls knew how to play the guitar. I didn't know how to play the guitar. And I would go to them and I would ask them that, hey, can you teach me? And they would find it really fascinating that our teacher is coming to us and asking us to teach her something. And that sort of changed the role. There was a role reversal. And it was just amazing because then a lot of these hierarchies that they may have had in their heads about a teacher and a student, because back in the village it's a little like that. The teacher is your mm, god, and then you're a student. But I was trying to sort of have everybody on the same plane, and that happened. And I'm repeating myself, but a lot of barriers were broken that way. So that's what I received.
So early part of our conversation, you spoke about uh, your 3 years of being uh, 3 years of working with Amazon in Bangalore, which
Mhm.
somehow, though you didn't say in as many words, but what I could pick up was neither could you relate to that kind of life, nor did you feel that you belonged in that atmosphere environment. And somehow in Ijerang, those couple of early months or probably subsequent to that, the way you and your students engaged and worked together, it seems to me as a listener, what you're not probably saying in as many words, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you somehow felt that you belonged to some place, you relate with someone. Somehow the gift that the teacher received from the student was the gift of belonging, gift of relatedness.
Yeah, I finally felt like I fit in, and it was just the right place for me to be at
ये
that
मेरा
point.
ये मेरा घर है.
Yes. I felt that every time I came back to Ejirong from anywhere. So my work took me to a lot of places, and every time I would make that really long journey back to Ejirong, every time I would cross this one little tree that I remember, I would feel, okay, I'm home now and I'm safe now. And yeah, I don't think any place has made me feel as safe as Ejirong has ever in my 30 years of existence.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So the fool which jumped off the cliff without knowing where she was jumping or where she will land, she landed up in a home, her own home.
Yeah,
So
she
beautiful.
did.
So beautiful, Rucha. So beautiful. I'm so happy for you. So, Rucha, you have a master's degree in German literature. I mean,
Yes.
I'm familiar with people, learning German language as such. Uh,
Hmm.
Very few people have come across who's actually done masters in German literature, and you probably are one of
Hmm.
those very rare persons I've met. And
Hmm.
I don't know German. Obviously, that means I have not read any German literature, but I've read English translations of some German classics. And I'm a
Hmm.
huge fan. It has made a huge impact in terms of the person that I am. So, for example, Metamorphosis by Kafka,
Kafka.
or
Hmm.
Transposed Head by Thomas Mann, on which
Hmm.
Girish Karnad later on wrote an English play called Hayavadana. I'll talk to you separately on that, but that's a beautiful,
Okay.
beautiful story there. But what is it that you learned in German literature, and what sort of impact has it had on you as a person and the work that you have done since your master's?
Um, the reason behind me pursuing a master's degree in German literature was because that was the next sensible thing to do. I had finished all my 7 levels of German, and then I was just wondering, okay, now what's the next sensible thing to do? And the answer was do a German literature degree, study German, not just learn the language, because I had already learned it. And I remember going into it with a really sour face that, hey, I don't want to do it. Yeah, like, what is this? I'll get so bored with this literature and history, etc., etc. Little did I know what was coming for me. And So I actually went in thinking that I'm not going to enjoy it. And it blew my mind when I actually started doing it. I had no idea what German literature consisted of, the authors, the kind of literature, um, the different phases of literature in Germany, and so we mostly did the Second World War and the literature around that time. And it has impacted me in ways that I cannot describe. um, I think I have become, of course, I'm way more aware now of what went down in the Second World War. But more than that, I think the literature sort of gave us an insight into what people felt, not just what people went through physically, but the psyche, the emotion, the turmoil. And I remember, so it is a 2-year course, and I remember coming back on many days with an extremely heavy heart and tears in my eyes, and I couldn't function because it had had so much of a big impact on me. And not just me, anyone. So I read a lot of German literature, obviously, and some of the books just stayed with us, and they stayed with us for weeks and months. And I remember giving a call to my classmates saying, hey, so in that book, this happened. Why do you think that happened? I think it could be because of this. And I think the reason for this was also our professors. They were incredible. The best professors I've ever had, probably. We would have 2-hour lectures. And this was also one of the reasons why I didn't want to first study literature. I was thinking, man, I have 2-hour lectures. How am I going to survive these? But when we were actually in the class, we would just be in the class discussing literature and poets and authors and whatever characters, and time would just fly. We would be in the class for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and we wouldn't even know. It was that incredible. I've never enjoyed studying as much as I did in my master's. I think I'm a more...
Any particular book that has left an impact on you?
There's been quite a few, but one book that I don't know why it has just stayed with me was, the English translation is called The Reader. And I think there's a movie also that came out on it. I haven't watched it, but that book just, it blew my mind, the way it was written. The emotions that it evoked in me, the feelings that it evoked in me, it has just stayed. It's been what, 6-7 years now, and it's still it's very much still in me. So that was one book.
Of course, I haven't read that book, but I have seen the movie that was made on it by the same name, The Reader. I think it came out in 2007 or 8 with Kate Winslet playing the role of Hannah.
Yeah.
The woman in her 30s who is illiterate, and she is so ashamed of it. And the only reason, I believe, she picks up a job in the German Gestapo because nobody would know that she is illiterate.
Yeah.
And she has this affair with this 15-year-old boy who reads to her.
Yeah. Who's the reader?
Who is
in the
the
book.
reader?
Yeah.
So what of Hannah that you still carry with you, if at all?
I haven't given this a lot of thought because I don't think it was Hannah really, but it was, I think I carry the feeling that I felt when I read that book. I can't answer this question right now. It has to have a lot of thinking.
I have a speculation, Rucha, if you allow me to offer it to you.
Of course.
What of the Hannah could have possibly brushed on you, which essentially is even a part of you, is the sense of determination, a sense of not giving up, a sense of being brutally honest to oneself, which is what Hannah was.
This could be it, but like I said, I think I would like to introspect a little bit and spend time with this question to be able to answer it.
Wonderful. Because it happens to many, it happens to me. So for example, when I read the English translation of Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, it's another German literature classic and beautifully translated in English, where there is this character of a boatman who only ferries people from one shore to the other. That's what the boatman does all his life. And in many ways, I relate a lot to that boatman, but that's a separate conversation if and when we can have. But why don't we go to the newfound love of your life now, which is coffee?
Coffee actually is, it's something I found in one of my darkest phases in life. um, I call my Amazon phase of life really, really dark. I really wasn't myself, and I was really down in the dumps when I was in Amazon. And I remember at that point, I would really look for um, things to escape to over the weekends so as to make the week bearable. The thing is, I had become dependent on the money coming in, and I was living alone for the first time in my life. So I really wasn't willing to let go of that life. So then I started doing a couple of things. One of them was I started a YouTube channel of my own, where yeah, where I bought good recording equipment and I recorded songs and I would put it up every few weeks or something. And the second thing that came to me was coffee brewing. So I remember there was this one cafe close to my house where I just went one day randomly with a friend, and I saw these really cool looking equipment, coffee brewing equipment there, and I had no idea what it was. They looked like they looked out of a science lab, and I was just very fascinated generally. So I asked the barista there that, hey, what is this? And he brewed some coffee for me to show me how it works. And that was it. I was sold. I was just thinking, wow, this is so fascinating. Till then, I just knew coffee as filter coffee, instant coffee, and that's it. That was my coffee knowledge. And the owner of that cafe also happened to be there that time, and I went to him. I said, hey, are you offering any internships? I would like to learn. And it was something as random as that. It was very much on a whim, where I just walked up to him and said, hey, I find this very fascinating, can I come? And he was so supportive. He said, yes, please. It was a Friday, I think. He said, come tomorrow, we'll start tomorrow itself. And I went there the next day, and he was there, and the barista who had showed me, his name is Saud, who's now my coffee mentor. Both of them together taught me about coffee. Uh, of course, I hadn't even scratched the surface then, where I just knew about the different coffee brewing techniques and roast a little bit about roasting and what basically goes into a cup. It's not just the coffee bean, but also the temperature, and also, so there's a lot to it. So that's where it started, my love for coffee. And I was just very fascinated because so people would just walk into the cafe when I was there, and a lot of times it would be just South and me, and they would think that I'm the owner of the cafe, and me, the owner. The owner would say, yeah, you play along, tell them you're the owner. And then they would have these long conversations with me, and they would be like, do you think you would like to have a cup of coffee with us? You can brew it. I said, sure. And then I would brew coffee. I would make pour overs and siphons, and then I would sit with the customers and have coffee and have intense conversations, at the end of which I would tell them, I'm only an intern here, but sure, I mean, see you next time. So that's where it all started. After which I moved to Manipur, so of course there was nothing there. So last year when I came back from Manipur, I had decided that I really want to pursue this once again. It really fascinates me. So I was in Goa for a few months before this, where I interned at two cafes, where I learned about a little bit about brewing, more about cafe management, and just I want to learn how it works. It all works. So I was in Goa doing that, and right now I'm in Bangalore, also interning with another cafe where she's teaching me everything about brewing and pulling shots and coffee as a fruit and as a bean. So I'm learning all of that, and at the end of this I will uh, probably be a barista. I don't know yet, but I'll definitely know a lot more about coffee than I know right now. And I'm also participating in my first coffee brewing competition in the next couple of weeks. So I'm really
Wow.
excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So looks like not just a lot happens over coffee, a lot happens with the coffee. As
Oh,
far as
yeah,
the
it does.
barista is concerned, it's like me and my brew, and the world comes much later.
Yeah. Oof, yes.
What a fascinating ride this Baura fool seems to have had. Uh, Girl, growing up in Pune city, doing a master's in German literature, Amazon, sick of corporate life, jumping off to Manipur, which is your new home in Ijerong, with those young boys and girls, and enjoying, being a barista. Where does the Baura fool go from here?
One thing that has really kept me going is not having a plan. Because I have realized that when I don't have a plan, I am really flexible and open to anything and everything that comes my way, which also adds to my um, experiences, which is something that I really love collecting experiences. So I love the fact that I don't have a plan. I love the fact that I don't know where I will be 1 year from now or 5 years from now. So if someone asks me that question, I really genuinely don't know how to answer that. For now, I will be in Bangalore learning coffee brewing for the next couple of months. After which I'll go back to the Northeast for a couple of months, and then I don't know. Then we'll see.
Beautiful, beautiful. The only thing I know is that I don't know. What a great
Yeah,
way to end this conversation, Rucha. It's been a beautiful, what shall I say, musical conversation in many ways for me. And I look forward to meet you sometime soon, hopefully, where we will enjoy the coffee that you will make for us, and
definitely.
listen to you singing with your uke. And I promise
Mhm.
one thing, that I will be a good listener.
You have
And
been an excellent listener.
and clap for you all along the way. So it's been a great conversation for me. Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, all I can say is Dankeschön, and
Bitteschön.
ask you, how has this experience been for you of coming on to the Wings podcast?
First of all, I'd really like to thank you for having me and inviting me. Um, it was very honestly, when we first started the conversation, I was very nervous because I've heard all of your other podcasts, and everybody has such an inspiring story, and they're amazing people. And I was really nervous to sort of share the same stage with as these people. But it's been so wonderful. The conversation just flowed after that. And it was so nice to just be here and talk to you. And yeah, it was really wonderful. Thank you.
And if at all you need some help in Ijerong, to fiddle around with your instruments, do recording for you, count on me and Asha. We'll just be with you, enjoying and having fun with you in Ijerong.
Oh wow, that would be lovely. We should talk about this.
Yeah, and this is an offline conversation Asha is soon going to have with you, because we have never been to that part of India and would love to be there and try and see if we can live the life as you are living there. So thank you once again. Wish you good luck. Take care and
Thank you.
stay safe.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only. and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75 at gmail.com. Thank you.